Omaha Mom Talks, proudly sponsored by Day Ventures Swim School, where giggles and goggles unite. Hey guys, welcome back to Omaha Mom Talks. I'm your host, Jessie Gutierrez. Today, we are diving into one of the real and necessary parts of motherhood, boundaries. Boundaries can feel extra challenging in motherhood, especially if you're new to navigating setting boundaries, if you're dealing with boundaries with your in-laws or your family, maybe you're used to being the peacemaker or the one who just does it all. Today, I am joined by Katy Spratte Joyce, a journalist turned entrepreneur who now runs the Only Facial Omaha. She's a toddler mama, and today we are talking about saying no, protecting your peace, and how to know when your boundaries are getting trampled on and why setting your boundaries matters more than just being nice. Let's get into it. All right, Katy, welcome to Omaha Mom Talks.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, super excited to connect with you today. So let's first just tell our listeners a little bit about you and what you're up to with life these days.
Sure. So I am Katy. I am a busy mom of a little boy named Bob the baby.
Okay.
He's not really a baby anymore. He's a toddler, but it doesn't have the same ring to it. He will be 3 at the end of August.
Okay.
So yeah, he's like such a fun little person right now. And I also am a journalist. I write about food, wine, travel, and design, primarily focused on the Midwest and Europe. And most of my attention these days is at my new business, which is the Only Facial.
Awesome. Very cool. So I first just want to chat a little bit about you and motherhood and kind of a little bit about what led you into this business venture. So tell me, where did you grow up?
I grew up in Rochester, Minnesota.
Okay.
So southeastern Minnesota, where the Mayo Clinic is.
Okay. Yeah.
So everyone in my family is in healthcare, basically, except for me.
Okay.
Which is why I don't live in my hometown, because that is what you do.
Everyone kind of does that industry. Okay.
Yes.
And then what led you to Omaha?
I went to Creighton.
Okay.
So I knew I wanted to stay at a smaller school, having gone to a Catholic small high school. And Creighton is like such a wonderful university. So that is how I got here. And then I met my husband a few years later.
Okay.
So, and he is originally from here.
He is.
Yes.
Born and raised in Omaha.
He's a West Side cult member is what I like to call it.
Okay.
So,
yeah. West Side folks are very proud.
Very.
Yes. I do love it.
I would imagine we'll be moving back to that area at some point. So.
Okay.
Yes.
So you guys have been in Omaha for a while. And then do you guys see yourself ever leaving Omaha, or you guys think?
No, it feels like home here. To me, it's like the perfect size city. It's really easy to live here.
Yeah.
Like our rush hour is one actual hour, like one single hour.
Yeah.
So when my aunts from Chicago came to get facials last week, and they were laughing at like the one car of traffic. So it's really a lovely city. It's a great place to raise a family. We have such a beautiful village here, so I would never move. And also peak Midwest. It's only a 5-hour drive home. So,
okay.
You can go for a
drivable.
Weekend. It's like a Midwest 30 minutes.
Yeah.
So.
No, that is really nice and convenient. Great. So what are some of the things, especially since your husband is an Omaha native, what are some of the like Omaha things that your family enjoys doing together?
Love the zoo, obviously. And then actually they started doing like zoo nights now. So I think we're going to do that for a date night. We've been trying to we've been together for 11 years.
Okay.
So we've been trying to get more creative with date nights just because, it's important to really invest in each other still.
Totally.
Just because you're like happily married doesn't mean you can't like put effort into that relationship and like pour into that relationship. So we love the zoo. We actually just joined the Lauritsen Gardens too.
Okay.
I volunteer there, and they just had their children's garden open.
Yeah, I keep seeing it everywhere online, and I'm super
amazing.
Excited.
I'm super impressed.
So you guys have been to it.
Yeah, it's a full acre. It's really creative, and I just think it's really well done. So we love to do that. My son likes sushi. So they do those little bento boxes at Blue. They're really nice for kids.
My 7-year-old loves sushi too.
Yeah, it's really fun. So we go to Blue and we go down to the slides downtown like about once a week. So we just try to kind of like date our city. Like we try to act like tourists, because I think a lot of times you can miss like what's right in front of you.
I agree.
Yeah. One of my friends always says, if you're bored in Omaha, you're boring. Like you have to look for stuff to do, but it's there.
Yeah, I do. And for young families, there's so much fun stuff to do, so many activities, so many like sporting events.
We actually do story time at the library a lot too. So we live by the Willa-Cather branch.
Okay.
So we love to do story time on Saturday mornings. Then we go get hand pies at Carter and Rye.
Ooh, so is that Dundee?
No, it's like Morton Meadows area, kind of by Field Club. So we just love doing that. Like that's our Saturday routine if we're in town.
So fun.
So.
I love that. Yeah. We love story time as well. We always go to the Millard location and my girls love it. And then like, I always am like, let's find a new library just for like a visit or like a weekend. Like, and they're like, no, we want to go to our library. And
You've been to the new downtown one yet?
I haven't.
Yeah, you should go. They're open on Sundays.
Okay.
So they have a really cool like treehouse play space and it's great. And then they do out and about story times too. So we've done like the Joslyn Art Museum.
We've done that one too.
Yeah, the Joslyn Castle. We did a picnic. They did like Monday night at 6. It's really fun.
Yeah, the out and about story time is really cool. I'm glad they offer that. So let's chat a little bit about just your background in journalism. And I heard you saying like Midwest and Europe, like you said it like just casually, which I've never been to Europe. So I'm like, girlfriend, tell me more.
Sure. So like I said, I write about food, wine, travel, and design. Although honestly, it's been like 10% of my effort lately because the business is so busy. The Only Facial is so busy. But I am very motivated. I'm very inspired by the Midwest. I think, pardon my language, people like to hit on it and act like nothing's happening here. And like cool people are doing cool things in very unexpected places. This is a city of 1 million people. Like that's not a surprise that we would have a nice food scene and like beautiful institutions for our families and that amazing riverfront park and
music, art.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just think it's really nice to shine a spotlight on like small businesses in our often overlooked region. Yeah. So that's sort of like my purpose-driven part of journalism. And I actually get a lot of work because of it. Like just this week, I'm doing packages for Afar and Condé Nast Traveler specifically because of where I'm located. Like there just aren't a lot of media based in the region other than obviously Chicago. So that's kind of part of my regional expertise. And then I have a wine background as well. I'm a sommelier. Oh, wow. So yeah, which is what I did during COVID when I was like, I'm a travel writer and I can't go anywhere. Like, what am I going to, I better add some tools to my tool belt. Okay. So I got my like level 1 that year and I've been meaning to do my level 2 for a long time. Many things going on. Yes. So because of that, I've kind of accidentally gone to Europe a lot, which is really lovely because when I quit my job to try to be a travel writer, I had never been at all to Europe. And now I've been like 21 times.
Have you traveled with Bob?
Yes, not to Europe yet, but he's been to like 5 different countries.
How does he do?
He's great, honestly. I mean, I knock on wood.
Yeah.
But he is, now that he's old enough, he understands. He just loves it. He loves airplanes. Like sometimes we just go to the airport and like sit and look at planes and hang out because
he really loves them.
And then obviously all the construction there.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
It'll be very entertaining for him. We've had, the flight from hell where he's screaming and we found out later he had a double ear infection. Aww. So we've had some not great travel experiences, but like the alternative when you have kids, like you can either take a trip with your kids and just know, is it a vacation? But you're giving them all these tools like to be flexible and to, be exposed to all these other things and to be out of their comfort zone. And I just think that's like pretty priceless.
There's a lot of benefits for sure.
I just would never not travel with kids. So,
okay. Yeah. I'm always super impressed by parents that travel frequently with their kids. Just because it is so much work. But I agree with you. There's so many benefits to traveling with them and experiencing other things.
There's a couple of resources if we have time for it. There's an Instagram account called Travel with Briggs, I think, or something with Briggs. I'll let you know so we can put it in the show notes. And that one I've used a lot for like gear reviews for traveling. And then there's a newsletter I like on Substack called Traveling with Toddlers. Perfect. So I like to read them, and sometimes it's about like if you're so intimidated, start with a staycation. Go stay downtown at the Autograph, in Omaha, right on the beautiful Jean Leahy Mall. I mean, there's ways to kind of practice, and then if you want to do a longer trip,
a bigger trip to prepare. Yeah.
So I like both of those too.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll add those. So fill us in on all things the Only Facial. Tell us a little bit about what it is, how you got started, what encouraged you and your husband to open up that business.
Sure. Well, I feel like being a travel writer and being on the road so much, it stopped being so glamorous when I had a baby. Like at first I loved it because it made me feel like myself again after having a kid, which is obviously like a massive identity crisis and like huge worldview shift.
Yes.
And I kind of clung to the travel because it really made me feel like myself.
Yeah.
But the longer that I did it and the more, like the older he got and now he understands when I'm away, it just doesn't feel the same and it just doesn't feel right to me to be gone so much. So I was looking for something that would keep me closer to home.
Okay.
You know, I was feeling a bit unmoored and like burning a lot of spousal capital is kind of how I think about it. Like it just, you can't be on the road half the time when you have a baby. Like it's just not, it's not like the right move. And I was feeling kind of a lot of mom guilt about it.
Sure.
So my husband got laid off from his tech job.
Okay.
And so was looking for something. He was like, I'm not going to work this hard for something that's not mine after this experience.
Yeah.
And I won't name the company, but not my favorite. So I feel like his sister, who is the busiest, pickiest woman that I know, is a client of this company in St. Louis, which is where they're based. The Only Facial is an esthetician founded company based in St. Louis.
Okay.
She heard they were going to start franchising out of state, called my husband, was like, this is it. This is what you need to do. If you can get Katy on board, this is it. And so he presented it to me. I was like, I have a job. I don't want to open a business. Like my dad has a franchise, Dairy Queen franchise.
Oh, I love.
So I grew up with like, it's just a lot of work to run a small business.
Yeah.
And so we have some knowledge of it. Mm-hmm. And I do understand franchises pretty well. So I basically said no, but he was like, well, let's just meet them and see like kind of what it feels like.
Okay.
And I've been doing a lot of work on like my intuition and trying to really listen to those gut feelings that we ignore because the noises of modernity are so loud. And when I met the corporate team, which is an all-female team in St. Louis, and especially one of the co-founders who's like the salesy one, like me, I just knew that I'm like, okay, well, this is a yes, like it, because it's a little bit like we're wooing them, they're wooing us.
Okay.
Is this a fit? Is it going to be like a symbiotic relationship? And I was just blown away by how like dynamic and compelling, and I just loved it. I loved everything about it. So then we opened a business together, which, you know, is a lot.
Yeah.
But it's also really wonderful. I never thought I would love something as much as I do writing, and I spend 90% of my time on the Only Facial, like happily.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah. So for those who haven't yet visited, tell them what is the Only Facial.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That was such a long answer.
No, I love it.
So the Only Facial is a little different from traditional spas. It's not like a 2.5 hour spa facial where you're going to get rubbed down from head to toe and, you know, be in there with like 45 masks. It's very much like a business results driven facial. So it's 1 hour, 11 steps, one specific treatment. It's called the signature facial. Mm-hmm. And it is $125, no tipping, no product pushing, no upselling. So it's really unique in our space.
Yeah.
And it's a really like approachable luxury price point.
Yeah. Yeah. So I would say I probably only had like a handful of facials, so I'm not like super knowledgeable, but I did go in and I met with, I think her name was Josephine.
Yes.
Which I remember because my daughter's name is Josephina, and she was lovely. But I am picky, even though I haven't gone a lot. And I don't like a ton of talking because I talk all the time or I'm listening to my kids. And she was like the perfect amount of like provided knowledge, which I love to soak up, but then also like it was peaceful and relaxing. And I love what you mentioned of there's no upsells. Like I don't have to think about like, is that something that I really need, or is that a benefit for my skin type? It's like all that signature, you know, it's not getting my brain worked up as far as like thinking too much when I'm in a place where I just want to relax.
We call it panic math.
Okay.
You're laying there and they're trying to sell you whatever.
Yeah.
And which, you know, there's nothing wrong with that. A lovely spa facial is a completely different treatment than what we do. Ours is, again, very like business results driven. The second half is all lovely, hydrating, relaxing, but it's really about like that cellular turnover and all of that exfoliating and everything.
Yes. And the red light therapy.
Yeah.
Love. I would do that every single day if I worked there.
I actually was sitting under it earlier today when I was doing some social media. It's nice to have it at the office.
Oh my gosh.
And then the high frequency wand is even better when you can zap your zits.
Oh my gosh.
Always zapping everything. So, so open a facial place if you would like to play with all this fun skincare stuff.
Seriously. Yeah. Yes. How did you guys land on your location?
That was my husband. We wanted to be, we both had input, but we wanted to be close to like our neighborhood and our friends, and we live in Midtown. Mm-hmm. So we knew that it was a little more saturated with spas out west, and we wanted to kind of establish a foothold in the actual middle of the city first.
Yeah, I guess I should say you guys are located where?
74th and Pacific.
Yeah, for those.
So 1020 South 74th Plaza.
Okay.
So right by like Lighthouse Pizza, the Martini Nails, Eileen's Cookies.
Oh, yeah.
So we have a nice little plaza. And we just wanted to be close to the interstate, centrally located, and it's been working because we have clients that come, from like an hour away in Iowa.
Wow.
And all the way from like Norfolk.
Wow.
So
that's awesome.
It's on purpose. Like that location is working out with that draw.
And I know when I visited, you seem to have an intentional way of like how you decorated or pieces that were from other small businesses in our community. Can you share with us a little bit about how you went about?
So I was kind of in charge of that piece of it. We obviously have brand colors and, rules for the paint and everything, and the brand is established. But we are the 9th location in the country. So when we were opening it, what I was thinking about was we don't want it to feel like a chain. Like that's not what people want. I like Arenza as much as the next girl, but we wanted it to feel like the Only Facial Omaha is different than the Only Facial St. Louis. Yeah. It is, the same lovely treatment, the same really intense training for estheticians, but like, how is it going to be different, and how is it going to feel like an extension of us? Because I would never sell something I didn't believe in. Like that's just not how I operate. So everything in the shop is sourced from local women-owned businesses. We had a local artist make this beautiful bow painting. We have like a lamp, we have pillows, we have plants, we have, my friend wrote the book about spas. She's in New York, but still a friend. And it's on purpose so that it feels like this small business. Yeah. And, we wanted to, with our decorating budget, support other small businesses because that's where our values lie. And nothing speaks higher to your values than where you spend your money.
I love that.
So you can talk about sustainability all day long, but if all your clothes are from Amazon, like you're not walking the walk.
Yeah. So. Yeah, absolutely. I love those personal touches. And
it's really cute.
Yeah, it's a super cute space. Very girly and my favorite color, pink. So that makes it feel right at home when you walk in. So I'm super excited to jump into this conversation about boundaries, and especially boundaries in motherhood. So let's jump into this conversation and kind of first chat about what are boundaries. So as a mental health therapist that specializes in supporting women, we are talking about boundaries all the time. And really, just first of all, I want to provide a just kind of introduction of what are boundaries, because I think there are some negative thoughts about like boundaries are bad or boundaries are to tell other people what to do. And so I'm constantly letting people know that boundaries are simply limits that we set for ourselves so that we can protect our peace, we can protect our mental health, and we can protect our energy. We all only have so much energy to give, and it's super important to me as a mom and supporting moms that we are protective of that energy. So boundaries are not about being mean. They're not about telling other people what to do, but they are about being clear about what we are willing to do, what we're willing not to do, and like where those limits are for us personally. For you, what comes to mind, Katy, when you think of boundaries, especially in life as a mom and a business owner?
Sure. So because I do still travel a bit for work, more like 10%, maybe 20%, but mostly less. I have very limited free time. I'm busy with my 2 businesses. I'm busy being married. I have a lovely social life. I volunteer a lot. I'm on a bunch of boards or guilds, and I have a baby, a toddler that is very fun to be around. So for me, it was kind of, okay, what do I do to make all this work? Because there's way too much going on. You could always be doing more. Like you're always dropping the ball somewhere. So like, I'm not willing to drop the ball on my marriage, my business, and my baby.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, okay, daycare days. We only have 2 to 3 hours with him on daycare days. So I just won't, most of the time, will not do anything until like 8 p.m. on a weekday, because I am not going to take away that little bit of time I get with him those days. Or so we'll do, like, we call it Mom Supper Club. We'll do 8 p.m. dinners downtown. You know, Bob will go down around 7:30. I have 15 minutes to get ready. And then I hit the road to go to, you know, Dolomiti downtown.
Yeah.
So like, that is something I have found is I don't have all the energy that I used to have. So I just will not do happy hours. I will only do like 8. If you want to see me during the week, it better be a lunch or breakfast, or it better be an 8 p.m. dinner.
Yeah.
And that just, I mean, obviously there's special events. Like, I'm going to a sound bath tomorrow at 7 p.m., which will help fill my cup.
Absolutely.
But it's not a normal thing that I am busy on a weeknight.
Right.
Or like tonight, I have to work tonight because we had a video shoot for a commercial at the shop, and I had this. So I have an article to finish tonight about Door County, Wisconsin, which everyone should go to, the Cape Cod of the Midwest.
Okay.
So because of that, I kept my son home this morning.
Okay.
We did little breakfast. We read some books. We played in the basement. He loves doing laundry. So we hung out until like maybe 10:30 this morning. So I got that like 2.5, 3 hours with him that I would have gotten tonight.
Yeah.
Because after this, I'm going to a coffee shop and I'm going to like knock out that article.
Right. Right. So it sounds like motherhood has really made you intentional of the time that you have available, and you're very protective.
And just more realistic. I don't think I realized how tired I was before. And then you just have like less F's to give. Like, you know, your perspective completely changes, and you're trying to raise this like little human. And it's such a great responsibility. It's like a lot of things that don't matter kind of fall to the wayside.
Yeah. Yeah. So. I definitely can relate. I feel like when I first started my business as a private practice owner, initially I was like, oh, I will accommodate your schedule, potential client, and I'll see you at this time or that time or whatever, because I wanted
it's never a good time for you
build my caseload, right, and make it sustainable. And then I found myself being like very just like grumpy, and so now I'm very, very specific about my working hours, which I just tell myself this is the season of life that I'm in, and it's not going to be that way forever, because I do have major, like my workday ends at 4:00 so that I can go pick up my kids. And a lot of times people are pissed when they call me and they want to book a session because they don't get off work till 5. And so I'm just very upfront about what my availability is. And I know that sucks and that's disappointing. I feel disappointed too. Like, one of the populations that I love and don't get to serve is teachers. I love supporting teachers, and I just can't make their availability generally work. I have a few teachers on my caseload who, like, once a month I'll stay late for them, you know, and that is like within my boundaries that I feel comfortable with. But it's just that time with my kids I'm not going to get back. And I know that one day they aren't going to want to hang out with me at 4:00. And so when that season of life comes, I can readjust and make my time different.
I've had to think about seasons too. And, you know, I get invited to like Sri Lanka or something, and I'm like, ooh, this looks amazing. Like, look at this trip, look at this hotel. This is incredible. This is for a press trip for my other career. And then I think about it more and more, and it's like, it's basically 2 full days of travel to get there and 2 full days of travel to get home. So for a 6-day trip, it's already 10 days of being away, and half of that time is in transit. And even in business class, like, that is a haul. So I actually started to focus on the Midwest and Europe with work, because I can go to Milan for 3 or 4 nights and come back. And then I only don't see Bob for 3 or 4 days. And to me, like, I just don't want to be away from him for long. Yeah. And I've taken 2 long trips since he's been born, 2 2-week trips, one to Portugal and Spain, one to Norway, the Faroe Islands, and Iceland. Both incredible trips, but I cried on both of them. And, you know, I just have realized, like, this season of life means I'm not going to be doing those. I can't probably get back to South Africa anytime soon.
Right.
Because it's just like, it's just not worth what it takes to make it work. And it's like, why did I, you know, there's beautiful places all over North America, and there's so much to see and do in our backyard. Like, that sounds like a spoiled thing to say, that I'm turning down all these trips, but it's just like not worth it to me.
Well, for you. Yeah. And each individual gets to decide like if this is something, you know, because you were always taking from somewhere else. And when we're giving to something, we're taking from somewhere else because we all only have that amount of energy and that amount of hours in the day. And it feels like sacrifices somewhere.
There's some famous Shonda Rhimes quote, and I'm going to butcher it, so I'll just paraphrase it. But she's accepting some award. You know, she's obviously the showrunner for Grey's Anatomy and all these famous shows. And she is telling the audience, like, when you see me accepting this award and succeeding like this at work, it's because I missed 13 soccer games and all these things. And so I just think about that a lot.
Yeah.
Like, it's going to come from somewhere, and it's up to you to decide
exactly
what that somewhere is.
Exactly.
You know, and you do get to decide it, like, especially now that working moms are the norm, and, you know, we get to decide what that looks like for us, which is...
You have options. Even when the options all feel kind of hard, you still have options. Yes.
Absolutely.
Hey friends, this is Jessie. Before we dive into today's episode, I want to give a big thank you to our season 2 sponsor, Diventures Swim School. My kids started weekly swim lessons at Diventures back in February 2025, and honestly, I've been blown away by the growth that I've seen in just a few months. As a water-loving family, water safety is super important to us, and Diventures has given me such peace of mind as a parent. I'm going to share with you just a few of the things that I love the most about Diventures. They offer classes for all ages and stages, starting as young as 2 months all the way up to adults. They have small class sizes with just 4 kids max to 1 adult, so they really do get a lot of that one-on-one support. They have a heated pool, so no battles over getting into cold water. They have flexible class times, which allow for rescheduling when life gets busy or you're going to be out of town. And of course, expert instructors, all certified and truly just amazing with kids. If swim lessons has been on your list, this is your sign. Head on over to diventures.com and find a class that's right for your family. So let's talk a little bit about some of the signs when we are not honoring our own boundaries. So a lot of the moms that I talk with, and I know that I've experienced as well, that when boundaries are loose or even non-existent, there's this burnout that creeps in. Or a lot of my patients report feeling like powerless or feeling resentment, exhaustion, irritability, right? These are a lot of the negative consequences of not honoring your own boundaries. Because I always tell people, like, it's your responsibility to communicate the boundary, and it's also your responsibility to hold the boundary. Other people generally aren't going to hold your own boundary unless it's like your partner or your bestie or somebody who's like very invested in your emotional wellness. And so it really is our own responsibility to hold that boundary. How do you recognize when you're stretched too thin or saying like yes too much?
I feel very overwhelmed when I'm not monitoring my energy levels and kind of keeping those set boundaries. So for me, it's mostly that feeling of like, oh my gosh, I'm drowning. Or I will start to feel like less joy for things that I know should be bringing me joy.
Okay.
Like I'm not excited about the new flavor at Carter and Rye. And usually I'd be like, oh my God, I can't wait. I'd like text my husband right away and be like, I can't wait to try this. So it's like when I am not enjoying the little things, I know that something isn't right and it needs to be adjusted.
You're like, something's going on here where I'm like meh about this thing that I normally feel excited about.
To be fair, you know, we are like 4 months into our new business. So this is a lot of overwhelm right now, but I am getting a little better about, like I do one pajama work day a week where I will sit in my bed. I call it Grandpa Joe, like the beginning of Willy Wonka, when all the grandparents are in the bed. So I will be like sitting in bed in my pajamas or my robe, my lumberjack robe all day long. And I always make dinner for our family on Grandpa Joe days because I want like something to look forward to and something to feel like productive domestically, because I just will like sit like this in my
You're just knocking stuff out. Yeah.
So like that is self-care. Like you're not thinking about your outfit. You're not getting ready. You're not like doing all of those things. Like I can just like wake up, do my morning coffee ritual, which I find very grounding, and just get to it and get right to it. And I'm used to being able to do that every day as a writer. So now that I have to physically go into the shop and like shoot content and do all these things, it's been very jarring to me. So having that even just one day a week has been like something I set when I can start to feel that overwhelm. I'm like, okay, what systems do we put in place here to check that before it gets out of hand?
Okay. Yeah. And so it almost sounds like that day is like also like reconnecting with you before you were a mom, where you could just like jump into work and not have a tiny human that relies on you, or like you're going into the office and things like that. So I think that's a good, and you do that weekly, or what did you say?
I like to do it on Thursdays. I don't know why, it just kind of works out that way. And then I'm also pretty careful. I won't usually do any meetings in the morning because that's when my brain is the freshest. I like to kind of problem solve, and stuff always pops up when you have 8 staff. So I'm always like whack-a-mole everywhere and trying to handle all these things. But in the afternoon, I will do, meetings and all that fun stuff. So I try to set up these systems to keep my boundaries in place. These boundaries exist so that I don't feel that overwhelm.
Yeah.
And those are just some of mine for work, which when I'm balanced at work, I'm a much happier, better mom. So absolutely. It all is obviously very connected.
Yeah, absolutely. It all is a ripple effect for sure. So I know for so many of us, this setting healthy boundaries oftentimes isn't modeled for a lot of us growing up, which can obviously make it harder to do now. Do you think boundaries was modeled for you growing up in your childhood?
I think so, but I had kind of a unique childhood in that my mom had a big job and is like the smartest person I've ever met. So I had this like wonderful role model of like kicking ass at work, and was like the most hands-on mom, like dinner every night. I mean, looking back now, I have no idea how she did it. Yeah. And then my dad had 2 jobs my whole life. He worked for the city of Rochester, and then he worked at the Dairy Queen, like from 7:30 to 4:30, he'd be at the city, go home and nap for an hour and have dinner, and then be at the Dairy Queen from 6 to 11. So I guess that sounds like a lot of work. So maybe I didn't have the best work boundaries modeled for me growing up, but I would never.
They never seemed overwhelmed or stressed, is what you're saying?
No, I mean, they definitely seem stressed, but I think like it has made me so hardworking, and it has made me appreciate how hard they worked for me now that I own a business. Like it's just been very eye-opening. But I think with actual like familial boundaries, I think they did a good job. Like we were pretty careful with our time. We, did a lot of stuff as a family. We always had dinner as a family every night, even if we're a million other directions. Like we had that time together. So the conversation about boundaries isn't what it is now. So I don't know that they knew that they were doing boundaries or setting them. But I think they did a really lovely job, especially now knowing how busy they were.
Yeah, absolutely. When I think of, so like for me growing up, my mom, she wasn't a people pleaser. So that isn't like the narrative that I grew up with, but she was like you always help people. She was always volunteering. She was always doing, but it seemed to make her happy. Like she never seemed stressed by it. Right. But there were definitely times, especially my mom's passed, that as she was older, that like, she would give her last dollar to someone. And like as her adult child, it's like, Mom, you have to set a boundary there. You can't give this person a loan because you don't have it to give type of thing. Or, and so I definitely think that for me, like boundaries in that way wasn't really modeled. And I feel like I've gotten really good at setting boundaries, but it's still challenging for me. And that's one thing I try and also let women know that, and the women that I support in my practice, is that even like with anything, the more you practice, the easier it gets, or the better you're at the better you are at it. But it doesn't mean that it's still like not challenging for me. And I think that because I can be a little bit outspoken sometimes, the narrative is like, that's bossy, or that's bitchy, or that's, some other negative fill in the blank
It's just
term.
the patriarchy though.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we're societally conditioned to be polite and to nurture. And like, I understand that. I understand the reasons that permeates culture, but I reject it because we need to be okay with being selfish, because you can't pour from an empty cup. Yeah. So the time I spend at home, reading a book instead of seeing a friend, that's going to recharge my batteries. I'm going to be like in this bubble bath, having a great time. Like I'm going to be way more fun when I see them on the weekend.
Right.
So it's like, we have to be okay with being selfish. And I think, like, to dig a little deeper, for me, I knew once we had kids that a lot of women are moms first, which is fine. Like, great for them. I would never want to judge anyone else and where they're coming from. But I knew, and I have been very intentional about, I am myself first. I am a whole person.
You're a human.
And a massive part of my life is Bob. But I also have 100 other things going on. So, like, while I love him and he is, like, the most important part of my life, like, I'm still myself. And I happen to be a mom. But that's not, you know, there's a lot of other stuff going on too.
Yeah. Yeah. That is, so I've been doing this kind of whole series on Instagram about reconnecting with yourself, and just, you know, she's still inside of you, that pre-motherhood part of you. And I think that obviously we know, like, once you become a mom, it is this big earth-shattering identity crisis, and it can feel like it's all encompassing because the demands and the needs are so high, and there is a tiny human that is relying on you. But it is a very fast track to burnout if we are not filling our own cup, if we're not leaning into joy, connection, pleasure, all of those things that humans deserve, just for being humans. And I think totally agree with you. There's so much messaging in our society about women should be agreeable and helpful and self-sacrificing. And, you know, our moms and our grandmas and our aunties, they are often praised for being the ones that held it all together, or like did all of the things, right? Like, I don't know how she does it, but she always does it. Well, there's probably some negative consequences there that are either internalized and that woman isn't sharing about, or things aren't as pretty, right? Like when she's with her trusted circle or with her friends or whatever that may be, because it all comes at a cost, right? And if, like we were saying earlier, if we are giving to something, it's taking from somewhere else always. And it's super hard as a mom to prioritize your priorities when they're all super important and they're all relying on you. Mm-hmm.
And I will say, like, my partner actually is great. My husband, Skip, he's really great at boundaries. Like, he is very encouraging of my social life. Like, I'm super independent. I, like, have a lot of friends in town, and I, you know, do a lot of things with them. Like, I have cookbook club on Thursday. We're doing a charcuterie class, and, you know, I have a sound bath tomorrow night. So it's actually a really busy night, busy week.
Busy week.
But he is, like, always, he would never refer to watching his own child as babysitting, which is my biggest pet peeve. Like, you were involved in this show. Like, what are you talking about? And he, you know, we take turns. Like, I'll take Bob Saturday morning so he can have the morning to himself. Mm-hmm. And then he'll take Bob Sunday morning so I can have the morning to myself. I mean, he is, like, the reason that I can do what I do is because he's, like, just as much of an active parent and partner as I am. And he frankly does more around the house than I do. I cook more, but, like, he does way more around the house than I do. So like, he is someone that actually helps me with my boundaries a lot. So if I didn't have that partner that really celebrated my independence, and knew that I needed it, or I would feel stifled. If I didn't have that partner, my life wouldn't be able to function like it does. And, you know.
I think that's huge. I can say the same for my husband, Drew. We laugh because we will often, like, if one of us gets invited to something, we'll say, like, oh, I need to check with Drew, or I need to check with Jesse. And we laugh because it's like, it sounds like we're asking permission, but really it's this check and balance that we have of, like, what's on the family calendar? Are you cool handling solo dolo?
Yeah. It's a respect thing. It's not like you're checking in with your keeper. It's like, I'm just making sure that you aren't planning to golf. And
exactly.
You know, like, one of my rules is, one of my boundaries, I never say no when my husband asks to golf, because he loves to golf. He's usually really good.
Do not take the same advice.
He loves to golf. He's smart about doing it either first thing in the morning so he can be quick, or during nap time. So it's not actually a heavy lift anyway. And, like, every single work trip that I present to him, like, oh, I really want to do this, Paris, blah, blah, blah. He's always so gung-ho and like, yeah, that sounds great. Like, of course I'll handle Bob. So why would I, you know, not that we try to keep score, because I would really be losing in that. So thank God we don't keep score. But so every time, like, he wants to do this nice hobby of his, it's like, absolutely. I, like, do not begrudge him that time, because I'm very selfish with my time. I take a lot of time to do the things I like to do. So I try to be very generous with like what he wants to do too.
Yeah. I think that's important. And I totally am just teasing. My husband is a big golfer too. And I laugh because during COVID, I told him to get a hobby. And what I didn't know is that he was going to get a hobby that was going to take so long.
Yeah.
And
it's not a short one.
But
it's like minimum 4 hours.
He fits it in.
He couldn't have like gotten into whittling or something. Like it had to be golf.
It's so funny. But I'm with you too, where I know that I need to take time for myself. I need to do these certain things, right, in order for me to just feel like a human. There is guilt there. So I just recently went on a trip without my kids, and it was a family trip, an extended family trip, and my husband and the girls stayed home, and we kind of went over the options. And it was like my husband was the one who presented, like, what if you just went to your niece's graduation in Texas without us, and you could just be with your siblings and your nieces and nephews? And I'm like, oh, that sounds really good. And then I'm like, but especially my oldest, she's 7. I'm like, she's gonna be pissed, like, because she always goes, at least with me. There's times I've left the baby, she's 4, but there's times I've left her, and I'm like, she, so there was guilt there, but like ultimately I know that the guilt doesn't mean that I'm doing something wrong. The guilt doesn't mean that that's a red flag in my choice, and the guilt is manageable. I can learn to tolerate the guilt. I think a lot of women feel like if they have that mom guilt, that it means like I shouldn't do that. And so I really try to encourage women to get comfortable with that discomfort and know that you can still make the choice anyways, and learn to tolerate the guilt, with the goal of the guilt getting like less or lighter over time. And then I got to spend on the back end, my husband was like, and why don't you go see your friend Marcy in Dallas? And so I did like a 36-hour trip at the back end of that trip. And it was like so good for my soul just to like be a human. Yeah, have girlfriend time, like eat what I want, wake up when I want. I slept on an air mattress, and she was like, I'm so sorry, we have an air mattress only. I'm like, girlfriend, that is like a dream. I sleep half the time in between 2 kids, like no
You're like
worries.
Starfishing on this.
Yes, I was like, it's amazing. So I'm with you in that. I really prioritize connecting with myself and making myself feel joy and connection, all the things that humans deserve. And I am grateful that I have a partner that is on board with that and does the same for himself.
And I try to think too, like to kind of battle the mom guilt, which is some from internal and some from outside pressures of, I'll meet someone on a plane and I'm by myself and they're like, well, who's watching the baby? I'm like,
they have a dad.
Like I didn't get here solo. And, it's like, if I was a man, would you be asking me what my childcare needs are? No, you wouldn't. So I try to also think about, like, my husband and my son are super close. And they wouldn't have this beautiful relationship if I was always there. Yeah. It wouldn't be as close as it is. And I try to look at, like, yes, it's hard to be away sometimes, but like, look at what gets to happen when I'm gone is they have like all these little traditions that they do. Like when I'm out of town on a Friday, they get donuts at Olson's and,
Fun.
It's like they have these little things, and we FaceTime every day when I'm gone and stuff too. So we still get to see each other, but I try to be open to the fact that like good can come from things being uncomfortable.
Yes.
Like it is like watching them together is like one of my great joys, and it wouldn't be this joyful if like I didn't make some room for that too.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So let's chat a little bit about, I always just want to make sure that we offer some value to our listeners, right? So let's talk
Besides
a little bit.
Besides our sparkling personalities.
Yes. Let's talk about how to set boundaries and some things that we can start with. So one of the first things that I always like to share with moms is reflecting on the areas that you want to set some boundaries, like really being intentional to step back and take some time and evaluate, like, what is it that is either like making me resentful? Is there a certain dynamic at play that's particularly stressful, such as if it's with your family or in-laws, or is there certain things that are going on that are really overwhelming or triggering? And then looking at those with a closer lens, giving them some attention and seeing, like, are there boundaries that I need to set here? So my tip number 1 is really just reflecting on, where do I need to start? tip number 2, like practice saying it out loud. Have you had any like situations where you knew a boundary needed to be set and you maybe like rehearsed it or practiced it or even written a script for yourself?
Yes, actually, I had a horrible trip with a friend.
Okay.
A friend joined me on a work trip and was just like, it's like when you can't live with your best friend. Like your best friend can't be your roommate.
Some people cannot travel together. This is a common topic.
And I just know this. And I actually, for a story, I wrote about it. It's an essay called The Bad Travel Friend. I wrote a story and I interviewed a friendship coach and practiced the conversation I needed to have with this person about why we weren't going to go anywhere together again. And I mean, that's like obviously a drastic response, but it was super helpful for me. Yeah. And it, I thought it was maybe one of the coolest things I've ever written too.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
And I'm not a monster. I didn't use her name. Like, no, it's a very obscure.
Are you still friends?
Yes. Yeah. We're close. We are still friends. We just are not travel friends. Yeah. And like, that's okay with me.
Absolutely.
And, that's what it has to be. And I think with boundaries too, one thing I want to say generally is we're all kind of doing our best in this like very tumultuous time. And I just try to assume positive intent and not take anything personally. Like if somebody bails last minute, it's because they don't have the energy to get this dinner that's been on. I don't care if it's been on the books for 6 weeks. It's like, that happened last week. I was really looking forward to dinner with a couple friends. One of them bailed, and I actually had still a completely lovely time with the other one. And it's like later, ended up something happened, and that's why she couldn't come. And it's like you just assume positive intent because we're all just doing our best.
I agree, and I totally have felt that same, like being really bummed if, plans don't work out or a friend can't make it, but never am I angry at that person. And in fact, on the flip side, if I've been in the position where I've late canceled to something because I just didn't have the bandwidth or the capacity, I know that I'm making the best decision for me, but I'm still super bummed. Like I wanted to meet that friend or I wanted to go to the thing, but
thank God we know the words bandwidth and capacity and boundary. Like thank God we're actually talking about it because 20 years ago, it would be like something that maybe floated into our brain for a second and we wouldn't even know how to start building the groundwork for all these healthy things we're trying to do. Yeah.
Well, and my husband, he is super social and he'll say yes to like every event and he has a ton of friends. And so we get invited to a ton of events. And generally, like I really do want to go, but I don't always have the capacity. And he's gotten really good at just like accepting if I don't want to go to something, and he still goes. And we've just kind of came to this agreement of like, if he tells me like, this is really important to me that you come, then I will make it work and I'll come. But like, he can't be using that line every single
this
time.
Isn't like twice a week.
Very so important. It's like, so then I'll say like, I don't like, we had a surprise birthday party this weekend, but I had just been out of town hadn't seen my kids for 6 days and wanted to see my babies. Yes. And I was like, I really want to go, but I just don't think I can. And he was like, okay, I understand. And he was bummed, but like, he understood. And I think like it can be hard too if you have a partner or a friend who is like then mad at you, or then there's that secondhand guilt as well. So I love that you're just respecting and honoring people's time and appreciating that they have good intent and they are making decisions that are best for themselves.
I think I'm kind of gravitating towards people that like own shit and run shit because that's all I can relate to lately. Because it is so all-encompassing to run a business. You just think about it all the time. Yeah. And writing is different because it's such a creative pursuit and it's, there's so many perks to that career that this is totally different. And it's making me, it's like trial by fire, or there's some phrase I'm butchering, but it's making me really just have so much respect for the women that I know that have these businesses, and it's been really eye-opening to me too. And I love talking about what boundaries they're setting. And, so-and-so runs a car dealership and somebody's a chef, and it's really incredible. One's a commodities trader, one runs a hospital. It's like, how are we all doing it? And how are we, how do we keep our head above water, and how do we meet each other where we're at? Yeah. And I feel like I'm a much better friend and I'm much more understanding now when someone bails, because it's like, I get it.
Oh, we get it. Yeah.
I've never been busier than I am now, and it's been really eye-opening, but kind of lovely too. So.
The other tip that I like to give is guilt doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. So we did kind of already touch on that, which is normalizing that discomfort. Do you still get mom guilt along the way?
I'm trying to go to Bosnia in September on a girls trip.
Okay.
And which is a very random place to go for a girls trip. One of my friends is turning 50. So we're in Croatia and Bosnia. And it's like 8 days, which is longer than I like to be away. And I'm kind of like, but I just talked to my husband yesterday and he's like, of course you want to go. Like, you go on a trip with these girls like once every 3 years. Like, you should go. Like, we're going to be fine. We'll go do something fun. We'll go, to the lake or do something. And so I definitely, I'm feeling the pre-mom guilt. I'm not even on the plane.
Yeah.
And I'm already anxious about, missing, what am I going to miss this week? And it's going to be okay.
Yeah. And it will be okay. And you can tolerate it, even though the guilt is there for sure. I think it's important to know that it's not your sign to cave or to throw in the towel, but sometimes it's also just a sign of growth, and we can learn to manage it and tolerate it along the way.
I process out loud, so I just kind of talked about it. And I feel like if my husband thought I was being gone too much, that's like a pretty good indicator to me.
Okay.
But the fact that he had like zero hesitation was like, no, you should definitely go.
Yeah.
I mean, that kind of was like, okay.
You're modeling this for your kids, right? Your kids are watching how you treat yourself, how you advocate for yourself, that it's okay to advocate for your own needs. And then, of course, we want them to advocate for their own needs as well. So I have 2 little girls, they're 4 and 7, and they're my minis. They are my baby feminists. And so I want them to know that when I go out with friends, I'm telling them, oh, mom's going out with her friends. Or if I'm going to a birthday party, I'm like, I was invited to a birthday party, and unfortunately no kids are invited. They get so mad, of course, and they're sad. But I'm not gonna, I used to lie to them and say I'm going to a work thing or I have to work, but I want them to know I am a human. I have friends. I get invited to things, and I'm modeling that for them so that they know whether they ever become moms or not, that's their choice, that they can take time for themselves, that they can fill their own cup, that they can lean into joy. What are some of the things you hope that raising Bob, that you hope that he either learns from you in setting boundaries or can have as a takeaway?
We do a lot of the same, where I don't also want to be working all the time. So I don't want my only time I'm away from him to be work, because I don't want him to resent me working. Yeah. So I try to just be really clear, it's girls' dinner tonight. Mom's going to dinner with some of her girlfriends. And then my husband will be like, it's okay, we're going to boys' dinner. So, or we're going to boys' pool night. Yeah. So we make it fun. And I just try to be clear with him, like you are with your family. It's normal to do things away from your family. Yeah. It's lovely to do them together. I love a family hang. My best friend has kids who are 10 days younger than Bob. Oh, so we love to do stuff together. It's really fun. And then the husbands get along. We get to see each other. The kids get to see each other. It's so nice. No one's away from anyone, but you get that social itch scratched. But it's normal to do stuff without your kids. You are not just a mom. You are a friend and a sister and a daughter and a wife. We tell them when we have date night. We tell him that Gally's coming over to play with him tonight, and we just try to be upfront about it so he knows it's normal. Yeah. And then for modeling behavior, moving forward for this little young man, I always think it's great when he sees my husband and I both cleaning together and both talking about the groceries and both doing all these things that are part of what we talk about, the mental load of being the CEO of the household, which oftentimes in a heterosexual relationship falls to the woman.
Right.
I think it's really important for him to see my husband doing all these things and being helpful and doing all the things that we should both be doing to make our home run smoothly. Yeah. So we like to try to set those examples too.
Yeah, I think that's really important, and sharing the mental load and raising the next generation of that. We are all responsible for the family tasks, and it doesn't just fall on one person.
And I have one actionable thing that we actually do. We take turns with appointments. So I did Bob's last dentist appointment, so now my husband will do the next one. Or my husband took our dog to the groomer yesterday, so now I have to take her to the vet tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So it's those little and he sets up the appointments he takes her to. Yes. I'm not the administrative assistant that's setting up the appointments and then he's doing it.
Right.
It's no, the dog needs to do this sometime in this time frame. So let's do it.
Yes.
And we kind of manage that together. And that's a newer rule, and it's been great. So like, so he'll do, you know, he knows his pediatrician, he knows his teachers at daycare. I mean, he knows as much as I do, maybe more sometimes. So I think that that's a really important, like, actual actionable tip. Like,
I agree.
Your husband should know your kid's dentist.
Yes.
Your husband should know the best, you know, urgent care for kids.
Yeah.
All of these things are not just things that should live in your brain.
Right.
And he's actually first for a daycare call if something happens at daycare.
Okay.
Because I travel. So,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. We are similar. And I actually had a funny story where it was a couple years ago where I had given my husband the task to schedule their dental appointments. And he knew it was like in Papillion. And so he hadn't ever done the dentist thing. He'd done pediatrician, and he's really good at that because I actually hate taking them to get their shots and stuff because I get anxiety. Yeah. So he does that. But he calls, he's like, what's the name of it? And I couldn't remember the name, but he knew it was in Papillion. So anyways, he calls me back and he's like, well, there's 2 pediatric places in Papillion. And I called one and they said they don't go there. I said, okay. He's like, well, what do I do? I'm like, well, you call the other one. Yeah. But I think he wanted me like to just take it, you know, and so he called.
He was done after that.
Yeah,
effort.
yeah.
Like, he had done the effort.
Yeah.
Like, but you didn't get the end result we needed.
So I was like, call the other one. I guarantee they go there. Like, I couldn't remember the name either. And so it was like a really funny like moment where he's like, oh, duh, you know, and then he pretty much takes them to the dentist and he's got it. But yeah, it took us, you know, a minute of me also learning that I don't have to micromanage the medical appointments or be the solo communicator with all of our providers because he's just as involved and just as invested in their health.
Yeah. And it's nice too. Like, I used to stalk the daycare app. Like, I took 6 months off when Bob was born, but he's been in daycare since then. And I feel like I was the only one stalking the daycare app, and I would get so frustrated. Like, what do you mean you don't know that it's like muffins with mom? Like, I'm bringing him on Friday. And he, I think, could sense how annoyed I was. And now he'll be like, hey, did you see that they're doing Water Wednesdays next week? And it's like, oh, you just have to tell him, like, hey, it matters to me that you read the daycare app too. It's not my job to read their daycare app and update you. You have the same app. Like, at the end of the day, you know, when you're stuck at a red light, like, just look at the little cute pictures and know that they did painting with whatever today.
Yes.
And it's been like, it's just this one little thing, but it's nice when I'm not the only one like providing updates from it.
Yes. Just to have another person like in it with you. The reliability is because sometimes I need to know that like if I'm having an off day, like you're going to pick up the slack, and like that's just how we roll, right? Like some days I'm off and he's like on it with the daycare app or whatever we need to bring to school today, and then other days I'm on it. But if it was always just me, I would lose my marbles.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure.
And I think that's like why I actually call him my partner instead of my husband, is like he actually feels like an equal in like every way, which I think is rare. And it makes me honestly like not understand. I don't want to come from a place of judgment, but I am confused sometimes when I see friends' marriages not function in the way, especially with dads. Like, I can tell you 5 people I know that they would never leave their kids for like more than one night, or maybe have never even left them ever, which again, they can do exactly what they're comfortable with. Yeah. You know, there could be many other things going on, but like I can literally leave for 2 weeks and come back, and will Skip be a little like, oh man.
Yeah.
Like, I cannot wait to not do bath tonight.
Yeah.
Cause we rotate, like one of us will do bath, the other one will put him down. Like that's how we do it. So like, obviously it's nice to have somebody to tag in when you're over it. But like, I know that Bob is in great hands when I'm gone. And like I'm just lucky. And I don't know if I would have had kids with anybody else, honestly. I didn't like always want kids, or frankly, I didn't want them for a while. And now I can't imagine not. And I can't, when I look at him being a dad, I can't imagine not having kids. I would like feel bad for the fact that I didn't want kids for a while, because he's such a good dad.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. I hope he listens to this episode.
Oh God, he won't. But he does have a Google alert for when new articles come out, because I'll be like, oh, did you see this? Or, oh, something must have published that I didn't know. And so yesterday he's like, oh, Beyond the Slopes is live about Alpine France. And I'm like, what? And he's like, I have a Google alert set for your when things go live. I'm like, okay.
That is so sweet.
Yeah, it's very sweet.
I love that. Love a man that's supporting his gal. Well, Katy, I want to know, is there any other advice that you would give to moms that are navigating or struggling to set boundaries or worried about like the criticism, kind of like we were talking about like being judged?
I think it's very normal to be worried about what it's going to look like to add a boundary when there hasn't been one there before.
Yeah.
But the reason you're trying to look for a solution is because there's a problem.
Yeah.
So like you just have to be okay with maybe it's going to be a little sticky when you're, doing those practices for the first time and setting those boundaries for the first time. But ultimately, like it's going to lead to what you need it to do.
Right.
So I just think we're so worried about what other people think, but if you lead with that, assuming positive intent, you can sort of start to feel other people doing that too.
Yeah.
And I think it's just important to be honest with what you can and cannot accomplish, and to really be selfish. And like maybe they should just listen to this again and again, and this can be their mantra. Like, it's okay to be selfish. Yeah. It's okay to say no. It's not, just because it's not how we're trained to grow up and operate doesn't mean that it's not how it should be.
Right. And there are certainly whether it be your mom or your mother-in-law or your aunties or whatever, they maybe grew up in a different era where their beliefs or opinions, right? Like they maybe couldn't fathom going on a 2-week trip or doing something, but that doesn't mean that it's not right for you. And listening to what it is that you need, what feels right for you and for your family, that you deserve vacation, rest, connection, and knowing that really does fill your cup. And by doing that, you're able to be more present for your kids. You're able to be more present at work. It's definitely a ripple effect.
Yeah. And I think it's also great for our kids to see us doing something that we love, and to know like this is a non-traditional career that I've chosen. Both of my careers are, kind of interesting and not what I ever anticipated. And it's like, it's okay to have them see you doing something that you love and working hard at something that you love, and something that gives you like the life that you want and the life that you want to build for them. So
yeah,
I think it's also really valuable. Like my son loves to go to we call it the shop. He loves to go to the Only Facial, and it's like nobody wants a toddler when they're trying to relax and get a facial, but we'll go in like between clients when, they're kind of just chilling in the waiting room, and we'll go like water the plants, or like he loves laundry, like I said. So he wants to go push the buttons, and
oh my gosh,
all the staff is obsessed with him. He likes to fake lock them in their rooms and stuff. And it's like, so it's, he told me he wanted to work there when he grows bigger. He said it weirdly. And, it's just, I think it's good for them to see us working hard and doing things like that too, because it just shows them, that anything is possible.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, thank you, Katy, so much for joining us on this important combo on boundaries. For folks that want to find out more about you or the Only Facial, where can they follow you or learn more?
Sure. I love Instagram. I'm very millennial. So Katy S. Joyce, Katy, S as in Sam, Joyce. And then my business is the Only Facial Omaha. Those are my handles. Perfect. So please follow along. It's a lot of like my little puppy and my little Bobby, and, a lot of fun skincare and travel stuff too.
Yeah. Awesome. We will add that to the show notes as well. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. I hope you enjoyed this ADD journey of boundaries together.
Yeah. And I didn't take my ADD meds today. So
neither did I, buddy.
So this is everyone listening.
Up and down for all of us.
All right. For those listening in today, I just want to remind you that boundaries, they really are essential. They allow us to enjoy motherhood and to do it with less guilt and less resentment. And those benefits far outweigh the guilt. So you deserve rest, you deserve connection, and you deserve personal fulfillment.
And you deserve a facial too.
Oh, yes. And you deserve pampering at the Only Facial Omaha. So please follow us along on Omaha Mom Talks. Subscribe to our show on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Give us a follow on Insta as well. And until next time, take good care of yourself. Thanks. Omaha Mom Talks. Real moms, authentic conversations, no filter needed.